What I've been attempting to show here through this playlist, Prove All Things, what I've been telling non-believers, if you will, from the very beginning, just try to prove Jesus wrong. Therefore, the Bible says prove all things, and that I titled this playlist. And from this video forward, I've really been trying to impress upon the viewer all the system fallacies that we can observe, which is real science, repeatable observations, not theories, not computations, not cartoon models, real observations. And this here makes it impossible for this, if you watch this 6-minute video, for any heliosexual to come out of the closet and claim you're wrong. They all want to go back into the closet after seeing this. They can't come forward and confront this information because it shows both objects must be the same distance, because when you move just a mere 5 miles on the earth, the whole image rotates. And that can't happen. That defies your model. And that's what real science is, repeatable observations. Because here, P1, P2, P3, the history of where all these heliocentric lies come from. It's part of the Counter-Reformation. They couldn't burn out all the people that tried to print the Bible, folks, and they couldn't jail up everyone that was reading it. So the Jesuits and the Catholic Church said, okay, we'll disprove it. And think of, in this last part here, Curveball Earth mockumentary, I go over 2 factors: the horizontal lunar eclipse and the fact that around the edge of the flat earth, or down here on the underside of the ball, the south pole if you will, the eclipse paths move east to west, not west to east like they do everywhere else. But when you search, they won't tell you that. Just like they won't talk about when they show you the this part here, when NASA shows you your cartoon and the rotation of the bite on the disk of the sun, they won't tell you why that is. They won't put that real close to the center line where it actually happens. On each side of the very center, you will see this. And then it gets, spread out from there. Anyhow, they won't talk about that because these are observations that belie the model, show it to be false. So with this last part, I just want to go back over it and put a bow on top for all the heliosexuals that are out of the closet and still trying to say, but hillbilly, you're wrong. Refraction of the moon isn't just the angular size of 0.52 degrees. It's far more than that. Well, trusted sources prove me right. And I'm going off what I'm observing in this film. I'm showing you real life footage of a horizontal lunar eclipse and showing that to your model. That is several diameters of the moon above the horizon. So you can't claim more than the diameter of the moon for refraction, because it's not that close to the horizon. Further you get higher to zenith, the less refraction you have, less atmosphere. So what I've been trying to lead up to for the viewer from this point on, by exposing all these fallacies in our model, is to give people that are coming to the light of the truth, if you will, that the Bible is real and our model is false. When you use real, repeatable observations to prove it, you can take and analyze all the lies or omissions that belie their model, like I've gone into in all these parts. And I'm going to wrap it up in a bow right here at the start in this last piece. so that you will have developed, by the time April 8th rolls around, enough self-fortitude and conviction to hopefully get your butt into the path of totality and question one of their other fallacies, because they always motivate you from fear. And what do they say when they show this? Oh, don't look at it with your eyes. It's not safe to look at it with your eyes, even only when it's in totality. When it's completely dark, you won't see the orb, the completely smooth, dark orb. Now, I'm no doctor. I'm not giving advice, but I've looked at 3. This will be my 4th one, the 3rd one that I've looked at in its entirety. And I assure you, prior to totality, when you get the so-called diamond ring effect or second contact point, before it goes completely dark, look with your own eyes and you will see the completely smooth orb. And then the 3rd contact, which would be the second diamond ring effect when it's coming off, you will see that smooth orb. You will not see any craters. And then you will know it's not the moon. They've lied about it. So anyhow, let's get into it. At or near the horizon, which in my video, we're nowhere near the horizon. Let me get into it to make it a little bit more clear. First off, I want you all to understand how they claim we're rotating North America, north up here. The Earth is spinning the same direction of the moon. Of course, that is absurd when you take observation. We see it travel the opposite. But with mathematics and the distance they claim the moon is, they can make it work out. But as the Bible clearly states, he takes the wise in their own craftiness. Or another way of saying that, he captures the wise in their lies by their own craftiness. So in the details, you can figure out it's a lie. And that's what I'm doing here, is showing you. So for all those that doesn't understand their model, I am correct. The moon was traveling this way during the total lunar eclipse of 2011. Now, these are the dimensions. The diameter of the moon, 2159. Diameter of the Earth, 7926. Look here. Angular diameter of the moon is 0.52 degrees. I said refraction is that amount. As you see here, they show the sun a little bit more than its diameter. Actually, you could almost say 1.5 times. But if we use our trusted sources for our information, we can determine, as you can see, the horizon. That's the key. We weren't observing it at the horizon. We were observing it above the horizon in the video. This is the video I'm referring to. Several diameters of the moon above the horizon. Note, it's half dark at this point. Further down the track, you can see it disappears closer to the horizon. Okay? So, going back halfway, you can imagine, since the moon is traveling this direction, it has to be, at that point of the video, the center of the moon right here. Well beyond more than the radius of the Earth. And in point of fact, before I get ahead of myself, lay the foundations so that you can understand the terms. I showed this in my video, but I didn't step through it, and a lot of people said, it's not 100% full, it's 99, so it's a waxing gibbous. Look here, they're splitting hairs, folks. Watch, 97. At 2300, it's 99.6. 1 a.m., 99.9. Look at that. 2 a.m., 100% full. That belies your model. Again, if we go back here, the moon is moving this direction. So when it starts to get dark is when it's going into the umbra shadow. So if you're looking here, they're trying to tell you that it's really down here when you see it up here. So let's define the terms. Atmospheric refraction. They're showing us this diagram of the sun. The angular size of the sun and the moon are the same, 0.52 degrees. I said in the video, that's the maximum of refraction. If you'll look at all your trusted sources, the maximum at or near the horizon is 0.57 degrees, slightly larger than that. Not twice the diameter of the object. On the horizon, refraction is slightly greater than the apparent diameter of the sun. So when the bottom of the sun's disk appears to touch the horizon, the sun, true altitude is negative. If the atmosphere suddenly vanished at this moment, one couldn't see the sun. It would be entirely below the horizon. Okay? So, not quite that much refraction. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the refraction of way more than the radius of the Earth to make your model believable. For this to be true, that moon diameter had to be centered right here on the edge to make the observation in the video. If I can find it. Right here. For this to be seen, the moon has to be right here. The radius splitting this dark umbra, and it's going this direction, getting darker as it gets closer to the horizon, which would create more refraction. Let's just, for sake of argument, even though we're well above the horizon, let's give them 0.52 degrees, which is the diameter of the moon. Now, apply some simple calculations to that. All right? So if we go over here to Ohio State EDU, we'll find the umbra's width is 9,000 kilometers, or 2.6 times the moon's diameter. Okay, so they're saying the entire thing at the distance of the moon is 9,000 kilometers, the shadow. So you divide that in half when it gets right, in the center, and we just convert it over to miles. It's 5592. So what do we got? If you give it the 0.52 degrees, which is the diameter of the moon, and you set that at the horizon and go back toward the radius to find the center point where it'd be completely dark, you'd have to add 1,804 miles to get back to the center. Let me clarify. So what I've done is I've taken the diameter of the moon at the horizon line. If you imagine this was the west and back here is the east, so that you could get this picture here when it's about to disappear. See, there's just a sliver of it left and it's near the horizon. So at that point there, we could say it's almost completely right here. If you imagine my cursor, I'm circling the diameter of the moon. That's where it had to be. Couldn't be up here. That defies the model. Because again, we're looking west, at the setting moon. East is the rising sun. So if you take the horizon line and you give it the angular size or the diameter of the moon from the horizon, you minus that. In order to get way back here at the very center line, radius of the Earth, you got to add another 1,800 miles. That would put the moon right here where you see it depicted. But we're not there in this video. In this video here, it only gets dark coming this direction. See, their craftiness, their lies are exposed by their own model to account for the western to eastern movement of the total solar eclipse. That's why they have the moon moving in the opposite way. In order for our model to account for all the observations, they had to put the moon going in the opposite direction from what we see, thus explaining away the western to eastern movements of the total solar eclipses or solar eclipses. However, that falls apart, which I already showed you at the end of my previous video, because the eclipses toward the South Pole or the rim of the flat Earth move east to west. But they don't tell you that. Anyway, I digress. So if we run a straight line out here for the horizon, we give the angular size of the moon or its diameter below it, then we'd still have to add the 1,800 miles to get it right here where you see it. Not only that, because it's actually moving this direction, when it's halfway, as we see it at this point, as I've stated, in reality, the diameter or the radius of the moon is right here, right on the edge. So you added the 1,800 to the diameter of the moon, then you've got to add more to get it back here where we see it depicted. So in order to do that, because of the diameter of the shadow, I've converted it from kilometers to miles from Ohio State. Then I divided that by 2, which gives you another 2,796 miles width, right? Radius of the umbra on either side of the Earth's center line. The video shows the moon half darkened, so we can say the moon is halfway into the umbra shadow, meaning it needs to travel another 1,398 miles more to be totally in Earth's umbra and directly behind the Earth. So you have to add 1,398 to the 1,804. Needless to say, folks, that totally obliterates your model. Your ball Earth model is dead. So all those clowns out there trying to pretend like, no, it falls within the limits of refraction. No, absolutely not. Not according to your model. This is nowhere near the horizon. Remember, maximum refraction of 0.57 degrees would be at the horizon. This isn't me just pulling this out of my, you know what. You can take that to the bank. It's trusted source information. Of course, when it contradicts or belies our ball Earth model, then all of a sudden the curveball Earth believers don't want to trust the sources. See, there's another example. So in summary, if we're attempting to accurately compare what we saw to this model of how it works and put the moon in its proper place when we observed it during the horizontal lunar eclipse right here, several diameters of the moon above the horizon, where again refraction is less, but we'll give you the diameter for simplicity's sake. Maximum, if it's down here near the horizon, is 0.57 degrees. Allow me to show you our trusted sources that tell us that. The amount of refraction on the horizon is typically 34 degrees or 0.57, right? Angular size of the sun and moon are 0.52 degrees. And who's saying that? Your trusted source. Not me, your trusted source. So, knowing that, and then we try to make it fit this diagram, we go back to where we left off. We add the 1,800 that's left over to get it directly behind from the horizon that we see it, so-called observed at. Then we have to add this distance here, which would put, that is the distance from this side over here to the, putting the moon in the center, okay? So in order to do that, we have, in summary, the added distance the moon would have to be in miles to fit the heliocentric model is 3,202 miles. The moon's diameter is 2,159. So again, you have to go more than another diameter of the moon to get it back here. You have to go 3,200 miles, I think it was. Yes. So, in essence, more than twice the diameter of the moon in order to make it fit your model. So it exceeds the limits of refraction, just like I said. If you'll type into Google, why do solar eclipse paths move west to east? And you step down here to find your so-called trusted sources, space.com and NASA. You'll come over here and find that you ask the question, why do eclipse tracks move eastward even though Earth rotates from west to east? NASA states Earth rotates eastward on its axis, which means the moon, sun, and stars appear to move from east to west across the sky. The moon orbits Earth in the same direction as our planet rotates, eastward, but the moon's movement along its orbit is small compared to the Earth's daily rotation, making it difficult to notice the moon's eastward motion. However, during a solar eclipse, it is easier to observe this motion as the moon crosses in front of the sun from west to east. Remember, in my video here on this playlist, Prove All Things, number 24, I go into the horizontal lunar eclipse and the very fact that only near the edge of the flat Earth realm where we really live do those eclipse paths move east to west. That wouldn't be, folks, if we were on a ball. They would go in the same direction they do at the North Pole or the center of the plane and all other parts in between. That's not what we see. Now, space.com says, after centuries of serious work, people realize the Earth does indeed spin in the motion, and the motion of the sun, moon, and stars is only apparent. But when it comes to solar eclipses, we're faced with a new incongruity. See, truth is always congruent, not incongruent. Anyhow, why does the path of the solar eclipse start in the west and end in the east? Here's where their craftiness comes in. The answer is simple, but it's not something we're accustomed to thinking about. Clever mathematicians. Remember, Tesla said they wander off through equations after equations until eventually they build a model that has nothing to do with reality. Now, the moon itself orbits Earth from west to east. In other words, if you could get in a rocket, go high enough above the North Pole, the moon would trace out a counterclockwise circle. But Earth rotates about 30 times for the angular lunar orbit, so it's not something we normally notice. During a solar eclipse, the path of the moon's shadow must follow the motion of the moon itself to the east. smart, aren't they, folks? They're just so wise, so all-knowing. And of course, we show you these here, the Chinese landing these rockets backwards, just like the space movies that they came out with in the 50s. Oh my goodness. Remember, folks, video and television is what the Bible referred to as all manner of lying signs and wonders.